As of right now, am I concerned when it comes to Cosmos and its native token called Atom? The short answer is no, but of course there's a lot more to that, and I'll give my rationale in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and this is just purely my perspective. Now, it's easy for me to be concerned when it comes to this because I can say that, hey, you know what? Atom, as of right now, it's at around $1.60. The all-time low is $1.13. So in theory, we're so close to its historical floor. But is that necessarily concerning? Well, not for me, because if anything, I don't mind the quote-unquote dip, so to speak. And at the same time, I don't think anything bad actually happened fundamentally when it comes to Cosmos. Let me explain why. If we take a look at Cosmos, it's literally one of the biggest projects out there that is focused on interoperability. If we take a look at the concept of a layer zero blockchain, sure, there's something like Polkadot, which is very famous, but we also take a look at something like Cosmos. Oftentimes, Polkadot is considered the most famous. Cosmos is oftentimes considered the second most famous within that space. So when it comes to Cosmos, it hasn't really done anything that is out of the ordinary. A lot of projects out there are doing bad, but this is also not doing the best either. But at least the fundamentals didn't become worse. If we take a look at Cosmos, the Cosmos blockchain uses a consensus algorithm called Tendermint. Now, Tendermint allegedly makes it possible for Cosmos to process up to 10,000 transactions per second. So that's pretty legendary, but we have to take a look at this as well. Tendermint actually created a toolkit, which is called the Cosmos SDK. Now, SDK stands for Software Development Kit, but basically what that does is that it allows something called application-specific blockchains to be built. We have to take this into consideration as well. People like to say, well, no one really uses it though. Well, really? Let's take a look at some very famous Cosmos-based blockchains out there, historically speaking. The BNB chain, has anyone heard about that? Isn't that pretty famous? You know what I mean? Take a look at Kronos. Now, also take a look at Kava. Take a look at Luna Classic. Now, okay, that one is a little bit of a 50-50 thing, but you know what? Luna Classic, sure, it had the crash, so to speak, but now the following is still pretty massive. So if we take a look at it, historically speaking, there's been a lot of impressive Cosmos-based blockchains out there. Let's also take this into consideration. There's well above 50 Cosmos-based blockchains. So those are just some examples that I used. But if we take a look at it in terms of its historical presence, it's still pretty massive. So it's not like Cosmos is fundamentally broken. That's not the case. The use case is still there. It's just the market overall isn't doing the best. That's kind of it. So if, let's say, a random meme I've never heard of is having a pullback, but so is Atom, which is Cosmos' native token. Now, if that is the case, what does that mean? It means that the common denominator as of right now is that regardless whether or not the project is good or not so good, they're just having a pullback either way. So if I walk inside a store and the shoes are having a discount and the socks are having a discount and the tank top is having a discount, and let's say everything's having a discount, of course I'm going to be focusing on the ones that I like, fundamentally speaking. It's no different when it comes to this space. If random memes are having a pullback and so is this, I'm not going to be focusing on the random memes I've never heard of. That's the thing. But that's just my perspective. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, if I take a look at it, the glue, so to speak, right? I forgot to mention this before, but I'm going to explain it now. The glue, so to speak, that connects all of these Cosmos-based blockchains together is something called the IBC. Now, IBC stands for Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol, but even besides that point, if I take a look at Cosmos in its entirety, I think that the use case is still there. I think the fundamentals are still there. It's just the market isn't doing the best. But hey, you know what? I don't mind waiting for something that I like, fundamentally speaking. So when it comes to, in the case of Cosmos, sure, people like to say, well, it's done, it's cooked and all this. But I don't really agree with that, just because when I take a look at the fundamentals, I don't see what's wrong. If anything, the only thing that went down is the price charts. Now, people like to say, well, it means it's game over. Well, personally, again, like I mentioned earlier on in this video, I don't mind the dip, because low prices, it could be viewed as in two different ways, either in a negative way or in a positive way. So it really depends on the perspective, but I don't view it in a negative way. And let me just kind of reiterate and sort of further clarify what I mentioned earlier on in this video. So just like I mentioned earlier on in this video, The all-time low when it comes to Atom is $1.13. So being at around $1.60 as of right now, we're literally so close to the all-time low. But guess what? Did you know that Atom is actually around 28 times, I'm not joking, around 28 times lower than its all-time high? But then its all-time low is $1.13 and we're around $1.60. So here's the thing. When people like to ask me, is Atom closer to a floor or a bottom or a ceiling? Now, just based off the price charts, not according to me, right? Just according to the charts, from what I can see, it is so close to the floor, its historical floor, I should say, but then it's so far away from its historical ceiling. So, I mean, okay, people like to tell me, what happens if this goes down any further? Well, okay, sure. I mean, maybe it could go down. I can't control it. But let's say it goes down. Okay, let's say it goes back to its all-time low. It's so close to its all-time low, though. That's the thing. It's not like Atom is hovering at around $4 or something. That's not the case. It's so close to its all-time low. Again, its all-time low is $1.13. We're around $1.60. But let's just say we don't even consider the all-time high when it comes to Atom. Let's just take a look at December of 2024. Did you know that in December of 2024, Atom was at around $10? So what, we're around 6 times lower than December of 2024? Around 6 times lower. I mean, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all this, they're not around 6 times lower than December of 2024. They're just not. Let's just take a look at Bitcoin. Let's say it recovers back to its all-time high. What is it, around a 2 times movement? Atom, on the flip side, going back to December of 2024, I'm not saying it's all-time high, just December of 2024. We're around 6 times lower than that. So again, the way you take a look at it is I can either view low prices as a bad thing or a good thing. It really depends on the perspective. I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but I just don't mind the hypothetical dip, because if Atom could just recover back to December of 2024, I'm going to Sizzler, you know, the restaurant. It's just a figure of speech, but I'm just saying, I'm going to Sizzler. That's the way to take a look at it. Because it already feels like a hypothetical altcoin season to me. Now, people like to say, well, this microcap could do this or do that. Well, here's the thing. I don't want to be searching for that type of movement through microcap. Let me explain why. Again, like I mentioned just now, Atom is around 6 times lower than December 2024. So if it could recover back to that, the movement is hypothetically around 6 times, right? For that type of movement, many projects in the top 100, 200, and 300, many of them are down like around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times or whatever, lower than their peak in either 2025 or 2024. There's so many cases like that in the top 100, 200, and 300. So if that is the case, do I need to be looking for that type of movement through a microcap? I feel like I don't. Because the way you take a look at it is this. If I want water, let's say, if I'm just using an analogy, right? If I just want water, I could either go to the top of a mountain, try to melt some ice and get water that way. You know, maybe that's a hypothetical possibility. I'm not saying I could do that, but I'm just saying this analogy. Or I can take a path of least resistance and instead just go to the tap, turn it on, and get some water that way. That's the thing. So hypothetically, if let's say around a 6 times recovery is something that already makes me want to go to Sizzler, the restaurant, so to speak, if that's something that already makes me quite happy, I suppose, I don't know why I'd be searching for that through microcap. It kind of makes no sense. Me looking for that movement through microcap is like me, for instance, going to the top of a mountain just to try to get water. For what? You know, I could just go to the tap and get water that way. That's just the way to take a look at it. Even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's just the analogy that I have. So when it comes to the case of Atom, it's quite low, in my opinion, historically, just because, again, it's so close to its all-time low. And then at the same time, Cosmos, nothing bad fundamentally happened to it. If anything, it improved. So it's still pretty good, I think, fundamentally, at least from what I can see so far. I don't know what bad thing happened to it, yet it's so close to its all-time low. Am I going to complain? No, I'm not. So long story short, I'm not concerned, because I don't see what bad thing happened to it fundamentally speaking. Yeah, sure, this is down, but so is Bitcoin. That's the thing. So it's not doing anything that's out of the ordinary. It's not like the whole market is popping off or something like that. It's not like the whole market is partying and this one isn't doing anything. That's actually not the case. The market overall isn't doing the best. Now, personally, I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month. I cannot control whether or not things could recover. I cannot control when it will recover. I can't do any of that. I don't know the answers to those questions. But one thing I can do personally is control myself, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wait. That's it. I don't have to, but that's just something I'm doing voluntarily. Now, I'm just dollar cost averaging again once a month. That's really about it. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait, but I don't mind waiting. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. I mean, I know it seems a little bit boring, but that's what I do. Again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but just to kind of simplify it again, I'm not concerned. I'm still waiting. And yeah, that's really about it. But I'll be sure to make updates when it comes to Cosmos moving forward, if there are any. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope you all have a very wonderful, fantastic, and amazing day. It's Winley the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.